Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Justin. I am here with the inestimable Tim Schafer.
An Eskimo.
An inestimable.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm very bad at pronouncing things.
Very hard to estimate.
And also Greg Rice from Double Fine. We're going to be playing Broken Age, their latest game to come out today. This was a Kickstarter success story. This was like one of the biggest things on Kickstarter at the time, and it practically started games becoming a thing on Kickstarter. I backed. This was the first thing that I backed on Kickstarter. You already have my money.
Fine T-shirt you got.
So I guess what was that process like? We're going to be taking your questions here in the chat. So if you have any questions for Tim as we play through the game, as we try things out, please go ahead and ask them. I have some others from the community. But Tim, I guess what was the thing like, the process like when you guys brought this to Kickstarter, like not knowing that Kickstarter was going to be this huge thing?
It was 2 years ago, and it was a super crazy, exciting time because we thought we were just going to make this documentary about a really, really small game, just to show how games got made. And when it went nuts, I think it became this thing that was bigger than us, but I mean, and bigger than adventure games, and bigger. It was just like people felt empowered that they were actually making something happen that wasn't being made happen by a publisher and wasn't being made happen by a big company. It was being made happen by them, and they were having a voice and saying, we want this kind of game, now do it. And now finally Act 1 is out.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people were
yes,
asking.
I am drunk.
A lot of people were asking you guys to make an adventure game for the longest time, and was it just publishers that weren't able to pick up on it, or were not willing to pick up on it, that this never happened earlier?
Well, I mean, I think the whole games industry got huge, and adventure games never really matched that. They never got huge along with the rest of the industry, along with first-person shooters and stuff. But they still had their fans who wanted the games. It's just that when you're going to invest your money, you're like, oh, I can invest in this huge thing over here, or I can invest in adventure games. And that used to be the kind of equation that was being used to make adventure games not happen, because they're like, well, my money is better spent over here. But now through a crowdfunding like Kickstarter, people can just get together and be, hey, I like this thing. Do you like this thing? Well, if we can just get together and get enough people together, we can put our money together and make it happen. And now they can. And I think it changes the whole equation, because we don't need to go to somebody and ask permission to make an adventure game. We just make it.
And more than just a game, you guys basically made a documentary out of this.
Yeah, Two Player Productions are the ones who came to us with the idea of doing this, because they had kickstarted their documentary about Minecraft. And so they knew how to do it. And I was kind of like, I don't know. And some business advice I got at the time was like, oh, you'll never get very much money out of Kickstarter, you know. And Greg was a big booster of it. He was like, let's launch this thing. And it was around this time of year, 2 years ago, that we launched it. So yeah, it was like the initial motivation. The thing I thought was cool was, yeah, let's just show people really what it's like to make a game, like the behind the scenes, all the trade-offs you have to make, all the tough calls, and all the maybe fighting and all the long nights and stuff, and have people see it.
And that's something that the backers can all watch now. If you backed the game, or if you bought it through your website, is that something that's going to be made available to people at large?
I think we're going to have it be, you can purchase it, and maybe, who knows? I mean, I think we want more and more people to see it, for sure. Because
episode's up right now.
Yeah, you can see the first episode for free on YouTube, as Greg just said. And because Two Player makes it, I don't make the documentary, so I can say it's awesome. Like, I really enjoy watching it, because it does capture a lot of these things that people haven't seen before, like the meetings you have, and people don't necessarily understand what goes into making maybe the simplest effect on the screen. Or so I'm happy with the story that is told. Even the meetings were just staring at each other, going, "What are we going to cut from the game to make this schedule work?" And things people don't want to know about. They don't really want to know that you're cutting the game, and so it's been eye-opening for everyone, I hope, to see it.
So I guess we can go ahead and start playing the game a bit. That's what will be going on in the background. Like, backers, as we said, have had access to the game. I played this all weekend. Didn't quite finish it because I'm terrible at video games. But for those of you who do not have access to the game, you can go ahead and check out this awesome intro.
Who do you want to pick?
Yeah, it's up to you.
So when I played the game, I started out as Bella, and I got about maybe halfway through. I'm not sure exactly how far, but I got to a point in the game, and then I switched over to Shay. I switched over to the guy character.
So this is the first time I've really done an adventure game or any game that didn't have a big opening cutscene. But I just always thought it would be nice to start the split screen with the two of them, because we're telling the two stories of their lives in equal measure, and so it'd be nice for the players to just click on one side or the other, which you can do.
All right.
What are we gonna do? Here's Bella. This hillside view is really inspired, I think, by Kiki's Delivery Service, Miyazaki films. Like the way she starts sleeping on a hillside, I always liked. And This is Vela, who's just enjoying an average day, except for it's going to be the last day of her life because she's being sacrificed to a
Guess it's time to face the cupcakes.
monster, Mog Chothra. And that's her little sister.
We have subtitles turned on, but we're blocking them apparently with our big heads.
Their big heads?
Oh no, we disappeared.
Where the sweetness
Not anymore.
is baked right in.
It's nice that now I can't see myself on the screen because I was fascinated with the way my microphone looked. I kept touching it. It was weird. It's really weird. Okay.
So we also asked for some questions before we started out. And one thing that came up over and over again from a lot of different people is this game going to come out to consoles ever? Is there any plans for something like that?
Well, you know, basic philosophy is you want all the
There is
games to
one
be
part that
everywhere.
I'm really afraid of.
And but right now
I'm
it's on
afraid
PC,
that
Mac,
you
and
won't get any food
and
because
later
I'm gonna beat you to the
iOS
maiden's
devices.
feast.
Booyah! And, so that's what we have planned for right now. Oh, do you see one more?
Android.
And Android, yeah. And but eventually it'll be on your microwave. It'll be on your toaster. It'll be everywhere.
Yeah, because lots of things are being able to play games. I know my
Exactly.
refrigerator
Yeah,
talks
it
to me
should
now.
be. If you get the next gen refrigerator, of course.
Probably have to upgrade.
If you spend as much time staring into the open refrigerator door as I do, you need some entertainment. there.
Whoa.
There's, I think, a big mix of kind of realistic, or not necessarily realistic, but definitely very serious undertones with the game, and then very comical and silly. And what kind of balance did you guys try to strike for with that?
I guess I always like overarching story of a lot of the games, like Grim Fandango. It's like you're in the land of the dead, the warrior journey of the soul. It sounds really serious, but when you actually get to the nitty gritty of writing lines for the characters, they come up kind of funny just because the things that players are making characters do in adventure games are kind of silly. Like use a rubber chicken on a doorknob. What kind of serious? What would Shakespeare write there, right? Even he would have to make a joke. Okay, Shakespeare made some jokes. Let me think of someone more serious. Anyway, it's hard not to crack jokes when you're making adventure games, and so I think you need that kind of serious undertone in a way so that people people in there. What's going on with that cake? Oh, sorry. I thought you were doing the same thing and I'm watching. There's a lag. Never mind. But I think it makes the serious things make the funny things funnier.
Talk like that could ruin the
I hope.
maiden's feast. If you destroy the
No, I think you have that is the balance that you have to find, and if there isn't that serious undertone, then if it's just all jokes,
No.
it's not as resonant, I think.
Yeah, I feel like you don't get really connected
Can
to
I
the
ask you
characters
about
if
the
you don't feel they're
maiden's
human
feast?
beings,
Did
real
you
human,
mention in Maiden's
problems and
Dream?
emotions. I hope you can pick that up from
What
these
is
characters.
Mog Chothra?
So you did mention Grim Fandango, and another thing that lots and lots of people kept asking about is
Distinguished?
is Grim Fandango something that you'd ever want to come back to? Is that a possibility at all? A Grim Fandango 2, or even just some other property in Grim Fandango's world?
I mean, I've always had a couple ideas here and there about Grim Fandango or more Grim Fandango stuff. I would love it if people could just buy Grim Fandango now. You pretty much have to pirate it or else eBay it if they want to play it.
I have a PC copy that there's
Or
a
they have to
build,
talk to you. Yeah, if they want to play it.
and I can copy it out for you guys.
And so that's, and the rights are being held by large companies, and large companies are pretty busy with other things that make tons of money, and so it's sometimes hard to, I would like to, I wish I had the rights to that game. But then again, it's also nice to make up new ideas,
I think I
because
know all I need to
although it's
know
hard
about the
sometimes to get
maiden's
someone to
feast.
give you the rights to something, it's like you should take advantage of what you do have, which is the ability to make up new stuff.
And I, as a fanboy, as someone who backed Double Fine Adventure, who really loved Costume Quest and stacking,
Yeah.
I really love the original ideas that you guys come up with.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that's great about Double Fine right now is you have so many people coming up with ideas. Like Lee and Tasha came up with those ideas. Those weren't my ideas, for sure. I mean, just
Fought them
for
all.
sure. No, I mean, because that's such a crazy idea, like a game about Russian nesting dolls, or
Please, my loves.
and that worked out really well.
Harder than it is.
And so it is always scarier and harder to convince someone to give you money for something that's brand new and unproven. But
Grandpa
I think it's
Beastender?
the most interesting way to go, for sure.
So we had one question come up in the chat, kind of related to Double Fine Adventure. One guy asked, what was the experience like being on VGX last month? That was a very divisive show, but
I liked it. I mean, the thing is, I'm actually a huge
about this
fan of the
maiden's
soup
feast
and
either.
Community, and I love
Shoot.
seeing Joel McHale. And I think his job on that show was to kind of like, Jeff Keighley was like the straight man, and he was there to make jokes. And I think people like a sense of humor unless when it's aimed at them. And then they're like, hey, are you making fun of gamers?
Why do you
Because
think the natives
it seemed like he was making fun of gamers. And some of the jokes, I think people just like, okay, not all gamers are nerds anymore. I mean, I am, but I mean,
Why
like,
did you stop being
he-
warriors?
I think probably some people are getting a little tired of nerd jokes after a while, but in general, I think he's a super funny guy, and it was nice to see that show. I liked the new format and stuff, and it was because it was about developers, and I got to go there and talk about Broken Age, which didn't have to like shout over Samuel Jackson or anything. I mean, there's nothing against Samuel Jackson, but it was like
he has
it's
a
always
very,
been a very
he
big,
projects.
It's been a big bombastic show, and so I got to like actually talk about adventure games on it, which was fun.
It was
So
kind
I
of
liked
like being at E3, like having an intimate one-on-one interview space.
Don't suppose you have another knife in the
For me, I really appreciated that as well, being able to hear developers and having you guys talk about your games and not just all be about, like, here's my trailer, I'm out.
Yeah.
One of the other questions that we got this one was from Cyrinel. Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong. So how did you guys come up with this Broken Age story? All your stories are so different, and kind of what drives that creative process?
Well, I wanted to document all that in the documentary, so that I started on day one after the Kickstarter was over with a notebook and just writing ideas down. Like I'd like to do a free writing in the morning, just write ideas in a notebook. And I actually went back to some old notebooks and looked up ideas that I had picked up but then not done anything with. And one was this idea of this story about a girl who's being sacrificed who doesn't want to be sacrificed and decides to fight it. Her town's against her. And then this idea of being raised on a spaceship, being taken care of by computers and being all by yourself in technology, which I've always liked in movies like Moon or Silent Running. But then realizing how both those characters in those situations are like could be someone of a certain age kind of busting out against all the prescribed life that someone else has figured out for them, and trying to get more, which is what that age is like for a lot of us, and so I realized having those stories being told side by side would be really interesting.
And how do you come up with these ideas? Like, I guess, what is your personal inspiration for stories?
I mean, it's like a lot of them they come when you're inputting other people's ideas. It's strange because they are your own ideas, but it's like I don't remember exactly, but I was probably watching King Kong or something and looking at Fay Wray being sacrificed and being like, why didn't she just kick him in the nose? Like, you can't help but think what you would do. Okay, if I was being sacrificed, I would just kick King Kong in the nose. Well, maybe not. I'd probably just be eaten. But that's where ideas like that come from. Is like taking something and turning it upside down or changing it a little bit, or wondering what you would do, and the various daydreams and fantasies that people have.
It's my mom's special ceremonial knife.
So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to throw those out into the Twitch chat. We are kind of watching that, probably not too well.
Will Vella's grandpa be in Act 2? Interesting. No spoilers.
Why don't we
But yes, I think you will be in Act 2 for sure.
One of the other questions that I got from earlier on is, so we kind of answered this earlier, but like, what kept you from making a traditional point-and-click game sooner? And will we ever see a completely pixel art game from Double Fine? Because there is a mode in here that you can turn on, kind of a bonus mode, to make it pixelated.
Yeah.
Is that something you would ever make a game completely pixelated?
Well, we talked about that a lot. We're like, what should we make? Should we make an old school graphic adventure? Should we do it in EGA? Because I really like 16 colors. That's what it was when I started there. We're still doing CGA actually, but should we do it pixel mode? But I feel like there've been a lot of indie developers that have pretty much nailed the pixel art thing and have owned it, like Sword and Sorcery. I think they pretty much took that to a level that I think they own that, as far as I'm concerned. And, I wanted to strike out in our own direction. And also, I had from the beginning wanted to do something in Nathan Stapley's style, which is our artist too, whose paintings a lot of this, game is based on. His style, his character, his worlds. And so that was the best way to show that. It was in a really actual high production value, nice, smooth, beautiful looking art.
I really love the small details that you get in the game. Like, I think Greg was pointing out earlier that the birds in the distance and the way they're animated, like when you really just sit and watch, there's so many things to pick up on. The way the water ripples, like it's very artistic and very
I was staring at the birds in the water. I got a little distracted there. But we have a really high-end art team working on this, so that's a lot of pressure on to come up with good ideas to make sure their time is not wasted. That's a lot of pressure. You're like, okay, they're gonna make whatever I come up with really beautiful looking, so I better make it something good.
And I really got the feeling when I was playing this of kind of the old Monkey Island, the old LucasArts style adventure games. Are there any kind of Easter eggs or any other nods to those other games that you've made personally? that you put in here?
Sometimes I forget. Like I'm writing dialogue and I'll put in Easter eggs. There's some little just details that are from previous games, but usually most of the stuff we have the rights to, so we don't get sued. Like there's a couple Psychonauts things. I was playing the cave the other night, and noticing all the, like brutal legend art that was used in that game, and so there's probably some stuff like that I didn't even know about that the artist did. But there is definitely one prop from Psychonaut made it into this game that people might not find. But
Is it in Bella or Shay's story?
it's Shay's.
Shay's story.
They were stacking dolls on the shelf. In the house.
That too.
I did
They were
not
stacking
notice
dolls
this.
on the shelf. Dun dun dun. And we have seagulls, and it's not the seagull from Loom. It's our own seagull. Yeah, I couldn't put a lot of the, Lucas games. We put that seagull from Loom every single game we made, and then can't do that anymore.
You mentioned earlier taking some inspiration from Studio Ghibli and the kind of films they create. Like this kind of reminds me a lot of the Nausicaä story, the big Olm that come out. Was that intentional?
Wait, I don't. Wait, which one did you say? Oh, no, Nausicaä?
Nausicaä. Yes.
Oh, why you pronounce that differently than I just read it and I was like, is it Nausicaä?
I think in the original Japanese is Nausicaä. Kaze no Tani no Nausicaä. But
Okay, here we go.
so
You're just coming out
Nausicaä
with
of the Valley of the
Japanese.
Wind.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind, and that's another thing about Miyazaki films, that they often have these female protagonists, and they are very strong characters, but it's not like they're busting out the whole time going, I'm a strong, they're not making, they just are. They just like, it's never an issue that, Princess of the Valley of the Wind is, you know what I mean? It's not like but they're just these girls, these independent-minded young girls, and Kiki and Nausicaä. But I really like that movie. I love both those movies.
We gotta get out of here.
Are you kidding? I've been starving myself for weeks for this.
Why has that man got a red nose?
Hey, can I have a drink of that water?
They all have red noses.
Because art.
Good question.
That you've got on. Never
Yo, so do you think there are pros and cons of an episodic release strategy in general, and for this game in particular?
Yeah, I mean, we made it work for this game because there was a natural point to stop
So
and leave people wanting more. There's the downside. Well, the pros are you can play it now, and you don't have to wait until we have the whole thing done. And then we can actually learn something from having the first episode out and having people respond to it that we can take into the second act. The cons are that if I come up with some great idea in the second act that would really change the first act, I can't really go back and change it. Like, ooh, I want to have this character and have him be foreshadowed in the first act. But because I could insert it as an update, but people would be like, why is this guy in this game that wasn't here before? So that would be definitely one of the cons. But it's nice. It is. I've never done this before, but it's nice having a fully polished section of the game out and be working on just the content for the second half. Not really worried about some of the existential questions of what is this game going to be like, because that's already solved. It's out there. It's like this.
Did you play the Tales of Monkey Island? But that was an episodic game as well.
The Walking Dead, I played that too.
Well, how do you feel about how that compares to the kind of thing that you're...
Well, those were designed to be episodic from the beginning, and they're like many episodes. So this is really just a story that's been separated into two parts. Much like Superman 1 and 2. Were originally one big thing, and they pulled them apart to be two parts.
So Lord of the Rings, which was pulled apart into 3.
Yes, originally meant to be 1 or 6, depending on how you look at it. Let's switch again.
Seems like a good place to go over.
So we wanted to bring it so you can switch to the other character at any time. The idea is that whenever you get stuck in a puzzle, instead of like putting the game down and walking away from it, you can just switch to the other character and take a little break and play in space for a while.
So I didn't even know that was something you could do. I think I was going to quit after having played for a bit, and then I went down to the menu and I was like, oh, there's Shay's head. I'll click on that and see what happens.
You tried to put the game down and we didn't let you.
It's like,
Grabbed
well,
you and
I
pulled
might
you
as well
back
keep
in.
playing.
Exactly. And so that's Jennifer Hale doing the voice of the mom on the computer from Mass Effect and Brutal Legend. And Shay is being voiced by Elijah Wood,
Elijah Wood.
who's a big adventure game player.
So did he volunteer to do this, or did you reach out and you're like, hey, Elijah, what's up? You
He
wanna come?"
volunteered for it in that he was foolish enough to tweet about it. And I hooked on to that. I was like, oh, I see. I mean, I heard that he really liked Monkey Island, and then he tweeted about he tweeted about Broken Age. And I was like, hey, look at this game, Broken Age. And I was like, yes. Interestingly enough, we have not cast this main male lead. How would you like to be in it? And he was like, he was immediately into it, and that was great.
Easy, computer.
You guys kind of have an all-star cast in this. Elijah Wood is definitely really huge, but you have Pendleton Ward as well.
Pendleton Ward, my favorite people, the creator of Adventure Time, and we have some favorites from previous.
Jack Black is in here.
Jack
Brutal
Black,
Legend.
always an excuse to hang out with Jack Black and work with him. He's great, and but also Nikki Rapp and Richard Horowitz and Ginny Westcott, who are just people. One of them, my sister, snuck her in there. But people who've been in a lot of our games before, and then new people like Musasa Moyo, who does the voice of Vela, and
No thanks, computer.
and people like David Kaufman, who we've never worked with before, who played the voice of Merrick. You know, so it's a great combination of old and new. Not
No, I
old,
hate
but people we've worked with before and brand new best friends.
So there's some outtakes from some of the scenes that you guys recorded that are up as part of the documentary. I think some of those are up on YouTube as well. Are there any crazy stories that did not end up as part of those YouTube outtake behind the scenes things?
I'm trying to think now if there's anything too crazy to be in the game, but not so crazy that I can mention it here. I mean, nothing. You get a little punchy when you're in the studio, and a lot of weird running jokes that are completely obscene take over the in-between takes on the microphone. But
Is
we
there a
erase
completely
those
not
tapes.
safe for work version of this game?
Probably, especially Jack Black. I think when he uses his lines, he has to bust out occasionally a completely obscene version of each line.
I should really use this on.
That monitor does look really nice.
As you
Very
command,
crisp.
sir.
Yeah, you can't see this at home, guys, but the monitor we're playing
the monitor
on,
we're playing on is amazing.
really nice HP monitor.
The spoon looks great. And the talking spoon turned out to be one of my favorite characters.
I also serve
It's very funny. And later on, you meet a knife who also talks. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's too much of a spoiler.
Oh my god, that could be a spoiler.
calories.
So earlier on, off camera, you were mentioning, maybe jokingly, about turning some, making some Broken Age merchandise. When you guys go to PAX, you guys have
Oh, we have
all
to.
the coolest stuff. Is the spoon actually something realistically that you guys would
love
make?
to. I don't even know how you would get something like that made. Like a talking. We did a talking bottle opener for Brutal Legend that says one line, in the name of Lars Halford, open up, and like whenever time you open the bottle. But that was just stamped on that. I mean, I want to have it like a whole molded spoon that flashes. But see, I'm always going over budget with these ideas.
Is there anything else really cool that you think would make? Oh, this is something we might bring to PAX to the store. Something to really look forward to.
People have requested a plush grabbing Gary. I would like an actual remote control grabbing Gary that you
can
actually
grab
press
things
a-
with?
press a button and grab things with. Yep. Yarn pals, real knit yarn pals. A navigation scarf.
My sensors
Oh.
are reporting an
These are all things I would wear. Just a plain old Mog Trother t-shirt.
the whole of this.
And also all the cereal from the game. I would like to have real edible versions. Maybe we can make one of those packs of they do for like they put the fun pack of cereal that has like 8 different brands of cereal, just little tiny boxes of Soylent Dreams.
Which adventure should we go on?
Into the Avalanche.
I did enjoy the
To
avalanche.
help those avalanche victims.
So see, he's on the ship, and it's supposed to look like he has all these controls, but they're really kind of like baby toys because the ship keeps him safe, but it gives the illusion of him being on this big space adventure, but he's really being held in essentially a crib and being given all these busy
This is the
busy
massive
toys.
avalanche?
I didn't notice when I first went into
Really?
when you're
How?
sitting at your table eating that you're actually kind of at a baby chair. That you're put into this. It's not
It's like a little high,
regular chair.
everything. They made everything look a little bit like reminiscent of a
That's
toy.
not
Like
worse.
he's in a high chair when he's eating his breakfast, and he's in a busy. What do you call those things? Those little things
Hey,
you put kids
check
in.
this out.
So we have a big in capitals question for Tim. I'm a backer. I love Act 1, and I understand why the game was split, but how can Act 2 be finished by April? Was cash flow this tight?
Discovered a
Oh, well, it may not be finished by April. That's what we said originally when we split it,
Go
but
with the Blizzard method of development, where it's ready when it's ready.
I'll figure.
I mean, definitely, I think that
We know
even though I think
you believe in you.
basically you do have to release the game when they're ready, and I don't think even though people would say they were impatient for it and wanted it right now, I don't think they'd really want it before it was finished. So I think we definitely are working hard on it to get it done, but it's we want it to be equal to Act 1 in its complexity and stuff. And the first one took 2 years, and the second one will not take 2 years for sure, but it probably won't be done by April.
Is there a lot of improvisation that goes on with the dialogue here, or is this mostly from your mind and your writer's mind?
I mean, mostly it's in the script. Sometimes in the studio we work together. Sometimes I've just written something that's too awkward to say, and the actor will be like, "Can I say and instead?" And so we might change that. But mostly it's from the script. and a couple of jokes that they'll add in here and there.
Ready for your next exciting
So,
step?
Pendleton Ward, we had him. He just did 500 different versions of his underwear, talking about his underwear, and those are all in there when you talk to him.
Object on the
like really all 500, you can just click through.
When I say 500, I really mean like 6.
250.
Yeah, 6.
Better sit down and investigate that fucking box.
So one question that we got earlier in the day is kind of going back to Jack Black.
safety suit.
A lot of the people in the stream, I'm sure, loved Brutal Legend 2. Is that a game you'd ever want to go back to, or is that you could go back to?
Challenging one because that game was like $25 million or so. It was over 20. Yeah, it was really expensive, really big, and it made sense to work with a big partner on that game like EA. And we're doing mostly our own self-publishing now, so we're working with games that are budgets like this, like $3 million or $2 million or even $500,000 or small. And so getting $25 million might be tricky. But I love that world, and I would love to go back there, and I think Jack might be up for it too. And
Outside the ship.
I don't know. I'd sure like to, I'd love to do stuff with that. Oh, I just touched my microphone. Did I totally
I think it's fine.
blow the
I
whole
don't
thing?
think they noticed. Just blow into
I
it.
would
every
love
now
to go
and
back to that world, or even just do like a DLC pack of. We've always trying to get Lion White in there, like the playable Lion White army.
Mhm.
But maybe that would happen someday. I would definitely love to do that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a cult classic at this point, even if at the time it wasn't commercially successful. Like it has a
It's
really
our best-selling game. Before you say, yeah, I mean it sold a lot. It's just that's the interesting thing about spending $25 million on a game is that you have to sell like 5 million copies to, and that's the interesting thing about this Kickstarter is that it changes how you look at stuff. Like people talk about Grim Fandango is not selling a lot, and it sold like 500,000 copies. So. But I've always felt deep down, like, if you can find 500, you know how many people is 500,000 people? That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
You should be able to make a living if you can find 500,000 people who like what you're doing. And so it's just the economics of it has to be changed around. So the Kickstarter actually changed the economics of it. And we only had 90,000 backers on this. Imagine if we had 500,000 backers and they all gave us $35 like they did last time. It'd be crazy. So it just takes away a lot of the overhead and stuff that costs so much money with these games.
Friendship circle.
So
it's depressing when you read these stories about a game like Tomb Raider selling over 1 million copies and that being considered a failure by the studio. Like otherwise, that's a very successful game. Over 1 million people bought and played this game, but that's still.
And the economics of that really affect what games you get to play. Like you don't get to play a lot of really interesting experimental games. Not even experimental, but just good ideas that somehow they were just the economics of that just didn't work out. That it would cost this much. It would have to sell 8 million copies in order to be profitable, and so we can't make it. But if you just approach it a different way with a different financing model.
Did you
good.
attack your set?
And we're seeing a lot of indie developers coming out. Like we're kind of split between AAA guys and indie guys, and I think you guys are definitely leading the pack as far as doing what you want to do, making the games you want to make.
We have always made the kind of games we want to make. That's kind of always been our business plan, is to just be inspiration driven. Like instead of like going after a certain market or like, oh, now we're going to make this type of genre game. It's that we had a great idea. We have a great idea and we want to follow through on it and make that game. And on business-wise, it means being as creative on the business side as on the creative side, so that we have the ability to do what we want to do. You know what I mean? You have to be responsible with all that money and make it all coming in all the time so that you can have the kind of freedom. Because if you don't have money, you have to go ask someone else for money, and then your freedom is out the window.
So kind of related to that, we have in our Twitch stream, somebody asked, the crowdfunding campaign began in a moment where Kickstarter wasn't as popular for games as it is now. Would you handle anything differently about it if you were starting that today?
It's funny, I mean, probably, because it's changed so much. I mean, when we first came on, we didn't know anything about like stretch goals, and like we were just looking at it every day, and people were flooding us with like these things of asking us if we were gonna do this and do that, and we were making it up as we went along every day. And now that like seems to be such a science and an economy around it, people are making apps run your Kickstarter for you, and there's services for people who, will run your database for you, and there's all these like fancy graphics for stretch goals and stuff. And I don't even know if all that is necessary. It's like I don't know if we did the Master Chalice Kickstarter. We kind of did it as a back to basics Kickstarter because that's all we understand, basics. But we try to keep it simple because I feel like still a good Kickstarter is just a really good, clean story. Like here's someone interesting doing something interesting in an interesting way, and that story is what sells. Like people get excited and want to be a part of that. Whether you have a fancy fancy little chart for your stretch goals or not.
Thank you, brave hero.
So we also got
Water.
one of our Twitch guys, I think that's for water. One of our Twitch guys is asking, how can a young person protect their ideas and their intellectual property while still being able to work with others besides their cat or dog? How can that trust go?
I mean, I don't know. It's interesting because my battle for IP rights, intellectual property rights, have always been with big companies who have to behave in a certain way, you know. They don't want to get sued, and but they just try to own everything, so that has a downside too. But when people I know who have made Flash games have then had them been cloned and by companies who just outsource them to foreign countries and then just make some knockoff of their game. And I don't really know the solution to that except for what do you think the solution to that is? Gotta go in? You don't have a microphone. Oh yeah.
You can lean in.
I'm trying to think of
into your
something
cheek.
useful to say to someone who wants to protect their ideas, except for
Fattening avalanche, I guess.
God, what would a smart person say right now?
Put everything into a notebook and then mail it to yourself, and don't try to publish anything until after you die.
And that's the interesting thing. You can't really send your ideas off to people. Like, no publisher really wants you to send you them. No developer or publisher really wants an outside person to send them a game idea, because they have so many game ideas that they want to make themselves. They don't want really outside ideas, and people can't even open those envelopes because they don't want to be sued later when you say, "Hey, that was my idea, that game." And I think really the best answer to protect your ideas is to really just make your ideas. Don't talk about them a lot publicly. Just actually make that game, and then have it be awesome and have people want your game instead of somebody else's knockoff
Well, I
of
think
it.
make it something that only you can make. Like, make it something personal that
Yeah.
only you can do, and then no one can clone it, right?
So it's not just that. Like, it's rare that there's just an idea that is golden. Like the idea, if you're like, hey, I want to make a clone of this other game that's about crafting and digging up mine stuff, like that idea in itself may not have been the thing that made Minecraft so possible, successful.
Yeah.
It was how he implemented it and the choices that he made when he put that thing together. And actually, who knows? No one has any idea. That was like this. But yeah, if you make it something that your unique take on the world, or your unique artistic style, or your just super skills in programming make it way better than anyone else's, then no one can copy you.
One of my mom's special dish
So
towels.
I guess building off of that, one person asks, if someone has a great game idea and they want to make it, they ask for 1,000 people for money. How could it only be the creator's intellectual property when they are asking for crowdfunding?
This towel's no good to me.
So
Well, I
I
think
guess because you're drawing from a lot of people, everybody's paying for it. Is it really your idea?
Well, I think that gets into this way that people look at Kickstarter, because I think a lot of people look at Kickstarter as people paying for something when it isn't. It's really, if you look outside of games, I think, for another perspective on crowdfunding. Like if you look at a mural artist, an artist who wants to paint a mural needs money for paint and stuff. Most people who contribute to that would not say, I own that painting now. They wouldn't feel that ownership of it. But in games, people feel a little differently. Like, oh yeah, I put money down, I own that. It's not that way. It's that there is an artist who wants to make this project, and if you want to back it, you back it. And so we want to make an adventure game. Do you want to back it? I want to see adventure games happen. So I backed it. And then as a thank you to people who gave us a lot of money, like $100, like here's a t-shirt, or here's a poster, or here's a little thank you gift for backing it, or here's a copy of the game. It's not that people are purchasing the game, and you're not. And that's a perspective on crowdfunding that I think has led to a lot of hostility of people thinking like, I paid for this game, and where is it? And you just got to think about that mural artist. You know what I mean? Like you're not. I mean, I guess if that mural artist never went to the alley and never bought the paint and never put any paint on the wall, you might be kind of mad. But you would never think you owned a brick of that alley because the guy painted it.
People have interesting comments in the chat. But, so one question that I had earlier, so related to Grim Fandango, all the other games that people want sequels to, or at least they seem to want sequels to, as much as they enjoy the original content you guys do. This guy might have been a little confused. His name is Dribble Barbacks. He asked, do you know when Half-Life 3 is coming out? If not, that's okay.
Oh, I think I heard that was coming out in December, right? Isn't that what you heard? Right? I'm probably not supposed to announce that, but I think December 4th is what I heard.
December 4th.
Yeah, December 4th. Half-Life 3 is coming out December 4th. I mean, I heard that obviously from a lot of people at Valve. And
it's an iOS game as well, right?
yeah, that's the surprise about it. It was an iPad game, which is just really unusual. But who can understand them? No, but I would also like Half-Life 3 coming out.
I think everybody would. Or at least have something.
But also, I'd like to see what their new ideas like. They probably have some new ideas.
They probably have lots of awesome ideas.
That's a tricky thing with because sometimes when people ask for sequels, that's the best case scenario, because that means you made something that they want more of it, which is great. But it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it, because if you did that sequel, you wouldn't be making that other crazy idea that you had that maybe they'd like even more.
And Blizzard, I think, has been doing a great job. They've been taking smaller teams and pushing out ideas that are really fun, like Hearthstone. I don't know if you've gotten to try that, but it's a really great take on the card collecting and battling game. And it's a team of like 6 or 8 people. And their next game is also going to be a small team game.
And that's something I used to always wonder why it didn't happen, but it's nice that it's happening now, which is that when you have a big company, you can experiment with small groups of that company. Why aren't you kicking out these little fun little ideas? And so it's nice when that happens.
So on the Twitch stream, one of our other listeners asked, is it exciting to work with Bagel and Scott C again? Think they'll ever start up comic content for Double Fine?
Oh,
again.
like making their webcomics again. It was exciting. It's always fun to work with those guys. And we have a great art team too, like Lee Petty and Levi and Derek. And it's great to have them all together, especially like today they're actually doing an art jam where they sit in a room together and draw. And that's just been a lot of fun. And what was the second half of that question?
Do you think they'll ever start up comic content on Double Fine
Probably
again?
not.
Probably not.
They're pretty busy. Scott is super busy he's doing kids books. He's done 2 great kids books, and he's always traveling around and reading his books to kids and stuff like that, and going to some gallery show. And Bagel, he's too busy on Broken Age to be doing his comics. It was funny when that started. I was doing a lot of news posts, and Scott was like, saw it as more a way to like I would come in the morning, I would do free writing in a notebook, and he would come in the morning and do doodles, and those kind of turned into his webcomic. And it's an interesting exercise, because like having something you have to do every day, I think it just teaches you some of that discipline, which then you can discard later when you're old and lazy. Like me.
You can just keep eating that ice cream over and over again.
I don't want to go too far and spoil.
We don't want to
everything.
spoil any puzzles, so just keep eating that ice cream.
So kind of related to where we were just at in the game, where Vela is up in the clouds, she's floating on things. One of our Twitch streamers asked, how many people wrote in to tell you that buoyancy in the clouds in Vela's story is really about volume and not area? That's
Buoyancy
too
is
sciencey
really,
for me.
I thought it was about surface area and pounds per square inch.
Here we go again.
I believe that's true.
I think the thing that also makes that true is that we invented the goofy physics going on in the clouds, and they're not actually based on actual physics, because I don't want anyone to step outside of an airplane and think that they can float on the clouds. They can't. Even if they have a really wide platform, they can't float on the clouds.
So they're not shoes that really let
no
you
matter
walk on
what
clouds.
kind of shoes you have, do
No.
not get out of the airplane and do not walk on the clouds.
You really should put that in the game as kind of a warning.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I
kinda
was
dangerous.
confused.
But since we're making up the physics, I'm sorry, but you're wrong and I'm right. Buoyancy is about volume when you're inside of a liquid. But when you're being... We're borrowing the physics from rainforest canopy tents, where it's just, if you're going to be sitting on top of a bunch of trees in the rainforest, you need a big canopy to like hold yourself above the trees. But if you just stood on the trees, you'd fall through.
Yeah.
And that's about surface area, not volume.
See,
I win.
Science.
Science. Fake science in your face.
Quantum Wind has a question for Tim. How has being a parent affected the way that you approach game design? Who do you design for? Games you want to play, games that your friends would play, or games that your kids could play?
I think, having a daughter has made me more aware of what it's like when you start up a game and there's no female character to play. Like, it's so nice that I can play Super Mario 3D World, 3D World. She loves playing as Princess Peach, and it's like the last version of it she was less into because she had to be Toad or something. And it seems like a small thing, but it was definitely a big thing to her, and it's an eye-opening thing when you see so many games that don't really offer that, and it's turning her into a gamer, from an early age. And
You also had the Sesame Street game that you guys put together.
yeah, I think the game that really I could actually credit to her was Happy Action Theater, if you ever played Happy Action Theater or Connect Party, because that was like, making a Connect game for
Everybody.
For everybody, it's really hard when you have to follow the standard protocols of like I gotta sign in and I gotta wave and get their attention and what if I step out and what happens to my user identity if I walk off camera, and then just like what if we stripped away all of that stuff and there was no menus and the game just started and it ran and it was like anyone could figure it out, the family dog could figure it out, like it was just like, well, the dogs don't actually figure it out, it still detects dogs.
The dogs can play.
The dogs can play, and but that's just one of the games I think I'm most proud of, is that when you see a room full of people and it's your grandma and it's like a 2-year-old and everyone at Thanksgiving is playing that game and they're all having fun together. It's like there's no other game we've ever made that you can see that kind of people getting together and having a shared entertainment experience, stuff like that. That came out of our company, so I was very proud of that game. So I owe that one to her.
One of the other questions we had in the Twitch stream, here's a question: what do you think on reviews of early access games? Should they be reviewed after they're completed, or as soon as they enter early access? And do you consider Broken Age Act 1 early access, but in a new kind of early access? Cheers from Portugal.
Hey, Portugal. I wonder if that's the guy who made Trenched. Yes. No, wait. For review, I mean, there's a lot of new stuff going on, so I don't think people have really figured out how to cover these kind of things, because early access, I think, needs its own kind of coverage, which is, hey, this is an early access game. Let's look at, how does it, it's its own kind of metric, which is weird. I don't think you can give it a review and give it a review score that it goes to Metacritic if it's an alpha. Our game is not really, we thought we were going to go in early access, but by the time we polish it up, we were not comfortable releasing anything that was really rough and stuff, so we made the first half nice and polished and finished, and then we were like, I guess this should go in the regular part of Steam. It's not really early access. It's not like people are going to play it and be like, I think you should add a character, because that's not going to happen. It's, just part 1 and part 2. It is more episodic than early access. And people don't know quite how to handle reviews when they're backers. Like, we kind of thought, hey, let's hold all the reviews until everybody can play it and everybody has it. But with 90,000 people, some of them were like, no, I'm going to review it now. We're like, okay, I guess we can't stop you from doing that. But it's kind of frustrating because, like, some people wanted to review it when the game was released and everyone could go buy it. And so, but we're learning about backers and early access. We're happy to be a test case for some of these things.
And that's something that we're also kind of dealing with here at GameSpot. I think a lot of other sites as well. Like, how do you handle an early access game when you're asking for money, basically? Like, this is a full price. This is what the game is going to cost. And people want to know, like, should I invest my money in this now?
I mean, people are going after early access games for different reasons, right? They're paying sometimes to have that access. They're paying extra, not less, for a rough, unfinished game, because they want to be part of the process of steering where that game goes, and so I guess there's questions about, are they getting that value? And there's questions for, I don't know, you almost have to answer the question they're trying to ask, which is, you can't review for that, but they want to make sure if they buy an early access game that it's going to get more work put into it, not that someone's going to abandon it. So, I mean, how do you review for the possibility that someone's going to keep working on an early access game? Like, we're doing Space Base, DF9, and we really are making sure really clear that everyone sees where the team is going with it. And we have a list of future features that we're going to put into the game, so what you see. This is not complete, but it's going to have all these other features, and that's been helping people, I think, feel a lot more comfortable about playing Space Base.
And for me, as someone who backs these games, like, I pay a lot more than I would if I was paying at retail, because I know this is a game for me. Like, I have faith in teams like you guys that I know you're going to make something I really enjoy, and I love the extras that come along with it. So, like, I really feel it's worth it to put in lots of money, sometimes way too much money, and I look at my credit card statement at the end of the month, and I little regret.
Well, yeah, the world wouldn't work without you.
One of the other questions we got, is there anything you guys can say about Massive Chalice?
Massive Chalice. I mean, that's Massive Chalice is our second Kickstarter that has like a bi-weekly team stream. They actually bring out the current version of the game and show it to everybody, which is crazy. Like, I thought we were I think, the most transparent game development process in history. But I think Massive Chalice is even more transparent in that it's not private to the backers. Everybody can go and look at the Massive Chalice blog and see the current screenshots from the current alpha version of the game, and they can go to this team stream and talk to Brad about the development of it. And so it's great. We have there's playable maps now, and you can actually play the game and the strategy part and the tactical part and see how it flows.
I love
Look
that
at
video.
it's balancing.
Oh, we're back.
I was like,
I love the massive Chalice video you guys put together with bringing Brad back to life.
that's the reason we did it. We just wanted an excuse to make Brad put on a fake beard and drop his tooth. He can't do that anymore. He got his tooth fixed.
On the Twitch stream, they also ask, would there ever be a hamster in a microwave in this game?
No. Oh my God. That got us in some trouble back in the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would have assumed that'd be totally cool, putting hamsters in microwaves, and no one would complain about that at all.
It's also mean. We were younger and meaner back then.
All right, so if you have any other questions, we're going to be wrapping up here pretty shortly, but if you have anything you'd like to ask Tim or Greg over here about Broken Age, about Double Fine in general, let us know.
I have a question Chris Waters wanted to ask.
We have a Danny O'Dwyer in the background.
Nice. Is the
Hello.
Double Fine dance in it?
Is the Double Fine
Double
dance
Fine.
in it?
Could you do the Double Fine dance?
That one, is that it?
What do you mean?
You should do the Double Fine dance here.
But that's not in the game yet. No. No, maybe.
Still Act 2.
Yeah, maybe in Act 2.
Okay.
Thank you, though, for doing was that just a trick to get me to do the dance?
No, Chris has a trick to get you to do the dance later.
Oh, wow.
Scary.
For some reason, this keeps coming up. People are asking, are there dragons in the game?
Oh my God, I'm seeing the lag now of me doing the rooster dance, and that is just so embarrassing.
You get to watch
But
yourself.
Thanks for doing
this
it
is
with
seeing
me.
what they do. This
Yeah.
is you're seeing.
It's not live, but dragons. Why are people? I do like Game of Thrones. Are they basically saying is it as good as Game of Thrones?
I think they see
it's
Episodic.
3 times as good as Game of Thrones.
Telltale's doing a Game of Thrones game. Dragons.
Dragons are popular.
Dragons are big right now, man.
Dragons are so hot right now.
He's like desolating.
We have
Snout.
Mog Chothra, who's much scarier. He's got like a laser eye.
There's a dragon in the cave.
He's got 4 tentacles. There is a dragon in the cave.
There used to be one in Costume Quest.
There was one in Costume Quest, the first one, yeah. But yeah, so there's better than dragons. There's a talking spoon. Go ask those other guys, is there a talking spoon in your game?
All right. Any other questions, guys? Oh, one person says, is there more or less thing that you can do in games now due to moral and stuff?
Well said, well said. What? I think,
I guess it is the client, is the current climate of sometimes reactionary and sometimes, being, I wouldn't say unnecessarily offended, but a lot of people have raised issues with lots of games that have come out, either from the graphic style or from the content that's in it. And is that something that you guys take into consideration, or that has kept you from making something you'd want to make?
I don't think so. I mean, I think a natural style is, I don't know. We're not really like a company that really revels in super negative, gross things. We're not inclined to make that kind of stuff. But since we're self-funded and we're independent, we don't have to worry about whether someone's offended with language or anything like that. But nonetheless, Broken Age doesn't really have anything in there that would really, I think, offend anybody, just because of the style of the people making it. So we're free to be as non-offensive as we are.
So we're asking, will there be another Double Fine developer challenge?
Like Amnesia
What's he
Fortnite?
talking about? What is he talking
Amnesia Fortnite, maybe?
Amnesia Fortnite. I would assume is what they're going for there.
I hope
Amnesia
so.
Fortnite.
Yes, there will be another Amnesia Fortnite. We'd like to do one every year. We got really busy with Broken Age this year, but we would like to do one really soon. They're really, really fun to do, and people like them. Amnesia Fortnite.
Yeah, and it brought us some really awesome games like the Space, right?
And
Space Base. Costume Quest, Stacking, Once Upon a Monster all came from Amnesia Fortnite, but also Hack and Slash and
Iron
Space
Brigade.
Base and Iron Brigade.
So this question
And
is...
Middle Manager of Justice.
Oh, Middleman. I forgot I downloaded that a long time ago now. It feels like such a long time ago. I think even if it came... Did it come out this year? Or did it come out in 2013 or was
I
that
think it came out
2012?
at the very, very end of last year.
No. Previous year, right?
Wait, 12?
We put like 10 games out in the last 3 years.
And you guys put out so many games in such a short
I feel
amount
like
of
it came
time.
out at the very end of 12.
Yeah. So not last
And
year.
we put another edition, the Android version, out this year.
One person had a specific question for Greg. He says, your job is pretty stressful as is. Was it even more stressful with cameras being around all these months?
The cameras
Not
were
when you look
interesting.
like I do.
Yeah, exactly,
That's what
right?
you said.
Yeah. So the cameras were interesting. I feel like, Tim and I do a lot of
Oh,
press
he's got a
stuff.
boom mic.
So we've been around cameras, but
it is just hard because you have to really put yourself out there, and people are judging your work and judging the decisions you're making and everything. But I think ultimately it was just a really great tool for us to talk to our backers and keep them in the loop and make sure that people knew what was going on with the project. And I'm super glad we did it. And I hope everyone watches it and gets something out of it, because it seems like it's a really valuable thing.
Cool. Another question that we got from the Twitch stream is, how do you feel with the excess of money you got in the crowdfunding campaign without the stretch goals assigned? Is it hard to later communicate to backers in what you've decided to spend more money on, or sudden changes of plans?
I mean, definitely people take that, well, they can take it pretty hard depending on what their expectation is. I mean, they sometimes, some people think that $3 million is like an infinite amount of money, because it is like that is to an individual. If you got $3 million, you'd be pretty set for a long time. And but a game company can burn through that in about 3 months. So, you know, that's 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
They can burn through that really, really fast. And once you take in the, you know, the rewards and everything, the budget's more like $2 million, which is pretty similar to a lot of other games. So, what was the question? It was
difficult to message. I think the other thing is there's not a lot of information out there about how much games cost and why and where that money's going and what game budgets are. So, you know, $3 million looks like a lot of money, but then there's games like Call of Duty and, you know, games that are pushing 50 million. I think, didn't they say Grand Theft Auto was like $180 million or something like that? Mm-hmm. And so just talking about the differences between that. So when we went from a $400,000 game to now a $3 million game, those are totally vastly different things, and that means the timeline is a totally different thing. And so there's a lot of education involved in explaining that thing to people, those kind of things to people. But I don't know, I feel like hopefully everything's for the better because of that kind of transparency.
And maybe other developers will start sharing their budgets and sharing how much games cost, and people will be smarter.
It's fun. It's like in movies. I like to see what the budget was. It's just something that's neat to look at the numbers. Like you don't judge it based on that. But
sometimes.
I don't judge it based on that. I just like to see. Well, and then you judge it based on how much it makes back.
See right there, that guy's like $3 million in 3 months. Lol, OMG.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, what are you, an accountant? Smart ass.
Maybe to make some money, would you guys consider a spin-off with the sock puppets?
Nice.
Ooh, that could be really nice. I can think of a lot of things to do with those sock puppets.
Wow, I don't know if we can talk about that here. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Oh, it's still, you know, it's a long shot for the 49ers at this point.
They are out of it.
Yeah, so I mean, mathematically it's tough. It's tough, but I really believe in them, you know?
I don't know if you're asking
it would be
the right
quite a
person
Cinderella story. This is the one with the sticks and the ice, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Sticks, no ice, I think.
Oh, sticks, no ice. Really?
Yep.
That's feel
pretty sure. One of the backers in the Twitch stream asks, "Are you guys happy with the name Broken Age now? You didn't seem convinced in the documentary."
Oh, only because Lee thought of it, and I don't like people to think that Lee's smarter than he is. So I've tried to act like I don't like it, but it does fit the story and the characters really well.
And another person asks, "How rich are you guys at the moment?"
Do we have to go over the budget again?
So super rich.
Not very rich.
In life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm rich in love.
3 months ago.
Couple message deleted. Those must have been really good ones.
I mean, after the game comes out, obviously we'll be super rich. After it's out to the wide public.
Then you just take baths in money. The kind of Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of paper cuts. An infection.
So, you know, LucasArts was basically shut down at the beginning of last year. Do you miss that studio and the things they did, what they represent?
Well, I mean, it was kind of weird because it's something like I was sure they were gonna get shut down for a long time, but then when it happened, I was totally shocked. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that actually got shut down, because I thought it would at this point just be around forever. But, I mean, the company that I knew was gone. It was kind of ending as I left it, you know. So a lot of the people that I think of as that company had already left, and then I left, and they went on to make some good games, but they had such a tumultuous cycle of hiring and firing people that in some ways it's just nicer that it's been put to rest, because it was aggravating. I mean, it was just soul crushing for people to get hired and then have these great big games started, and they really believed in them, and they get almost done, and then president gets fired and they just get shut down. Everyone gets fired. Like, that was just, I'm so glad that's not going to happen anymore. I'd still like to see those games. See, that's what I wish they would put on early access. get out like a
So the
13,
LucasArts
13
games.
or all
Oh,
those
yeah.
games that we're mostly done. And just I'd like to just put them all on early access, and then maybe people will buy them, and maybe someone can. But of course, the company being out of business means that's not going to go very much farther. But maybe it could. Maybe 6 people.
Do some open source code and just have people go at it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Disney would be totally fine with people doing that. The Star
New
Wars
business
license.
plan for Disney: have people go at it.
One person asked in the Twitch stream, if you could make a sequel to any game, what would it be? I'm assuming they mean any game ever at all time, and not just your own.
I don't really make sequels. We made one to Connect Party. It was a sequel. There.
That was probably the best kind of sequel to make.
It was awesome. It was so big that it ate the previous game. You can't even get the old game anymore. It just ate all those activities from it, and it was I was on there. I have ideas for all the games to make sequels out of them. I mean, it's kind of hard with Grimm because the main character went into another dimension at the end, basically, like went into another realm. If he got pulled back, that would be really tough on him.
All right, if you guys have any last minute questions, we're going to be wrapping up here in the next couple minutes. Go ahead, throw those out into the Twitch chat. And also, be sure to follow GameSpot for all your gaming news and needs. We're on Twitter at GameSpot. You can also follow Tim Schafer here at Tim of Legend. Double Fine is also at Double Fine. Greg, what is your Twitter handle?
I am at Greg Ricey.
And Greg Ricey, R-I-C-E-Y.
Ask a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you guys intentionally make it so that you could play Broken Age with just the mouse or just the keyboard?
So did you intentionally make it so that you can just play Broken Age with the mouse and
Because you
keyboard?
can remap all the keys? Is that what you're saying?
I'm able to play it in front of my TV with just my mouse and my knee.
You just play it down like this?
Was that intentional or a happy accident?
Yes. Well, we made all the key, but we made them all fully remappable, and I think it was imagined that some people would like to play only with the mouse. I did not anticipate it. Back to the old LucasArts games, you could play just with the keyboard too. You could play you could use the arrow keys, and I don't think we managed to do that exactly. Yeah. But you can definitely use just your mouse if you map the inventory to the right click. Is that what you did?
Just click in the corner.
And you can just click in the corner.
It's much appreciated.
Right.
I just bought a new TV. I know what it is.
Every time I think of it, I'll think of this gesture too, which is like the itchy leg player.
Right. For some reason, people are really interested in, Tim, do you like Metal Gear?
In general, people just...
Yeah, we just got a whole slew of, hey, Tim, Metal Gear. Metal Gear? Does Tim like
Oh,
Metal
they
Gear?
want me to announce the new sequel to Metal Gear will be coming out right after Half-Life 3, December 4th. I like Metal Gear, but I've really only played the old Metal Gears. I haven't played the latest.
Solid?
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
3's good.
And it knew when you were staring at the girl. That's the thing I liked about it the most. It's funny. And
When
looking around,
it comments on it.
Yeah, comments on it. That was genius. So, and the box. I just want to make a crawling around a cardboard box in every game.
Any chance you'll be working with Rob Gilbert? Sorry.
Ron Gilbert.
Ron Gilbert.
Ron Gilbert.
Ron Gilbert.
Well, I just working mostly on lunch. We have lunches together and stuff.
It's the best kind of work.
Yeah, it's the best kind of work. He's around. We're still friends. You never know what might happen.
Cool. And I think that answers pretty much all of the good questions and the questions we have not already asked
Good
over and
questions.
over again.
Let's answer the bad questions.
Well, people
No.
just keep going, hey, Half-Life 3?
I told you, December 4th.
It's the nature
That's
of
the
the
headline.
Twitch chat.
Tim announces Half-Life 3, December 4th.
Confirmed. Well, thanks so much for coming out
I
and
just
showing
made
us the
that
game.
up, but
I really look forward to finishing it up finally. And hopefully all of you guys watching got a good taste of it. You want to go try it out yourselves. It is going to be available for everybody to download really soon, right?
28th.
The 28th.
Yeah.
And again, follow us on Twitter at GameSpot. You can follow Tim at Tim of Legend, Greg at Greg Ricey. Double Fine also has their own awesome Twitter channel. And you can go to their website. They have some cool stuff for sale. Maybe in the future, some cool Broken Age stuff coming. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Bye.
Thank you for backing.
Thank you
Ellen, thank you for backing.
for backing.